we're getting into that spring weather now, and it was pretty hot today, and I was thinking as I was walking around, man, fuck flies. Fuck those pests, man. Oh my, I've always hated flies, but I mean, they're just so damn annoying when, like, they're just hanging around my face and around my orifices, around my nose or my mouth, and like bumping into my eyeball. Fuck off, you flies. Just consistently fucking annoying. I have to walk around like waving my hand in front of my face. I'm looking like a crazy person. And I'm walking around like yelling at them like, fuck off, you cunts. People are driving by like, and I'm also like hitting myself. People must think I'm so crazy. I'm yelling at myself and hitting myself, and I'm like stopping all of a sudden to like smack myself in the face. I'm not crazy. I'm just, it very much looks that way, but I'm just trying to fucking deal with these flies, man. It's so goddamn annoying. Just hanging. Ugh. If they were hanging around my like balls or my arms or whatever, it's not as bad. It's nowhere near as bad. But they're just like trying to get at the salt in my face. So I was like real sweaty, man. I was real sweaty and sexy. Anyway, fuck the. Hey, what am I gonna do? I need to kill all the flies in the world. How are we gonna do that? I need to team up with some like king spider to like. We'll cut a deal and he can go around killing all the flies in the world. What would happen if all the flies in the world died? I mean, it can't be that big of a deal. Let me look it up. Because what good are they? They're just hanging around. If flies went extinct, the world would fill up with rotting organic rubbish. It's because flies are composters. They act as scavengers alongside isopods, eating and laying eggs on dead animals, excrement, blah blah blah, anything rotting. They're also excellent pollinators, coming second only to bees. Well, how exactly do they get rid of the organic rubbish? I guess they just eat it. Well, fuck, man. I guess we can. I'd rather we just deal with that. Like, take all the like dead animals and dead insects and dead bodies in general, and put them in an incinerator after we're done with killing all the flies. Because I can't stand them. Ever since I was a teenager, I can't stand them. Anyway, look, let's get into a good old what to review first. You know what? Fuck it. Let's just get straight into the big enchilada, the big movie of the week. God damn it. The Exorcist Believer. So this film, the fifth or whatever, I don't know, in the Exorcist franchise. Well, there hasn't even been an Exorcist movie in a while. But it's so great to have this film coming out at a time when the Hollywood strike is over and they're like, yeah, we can go back to making shit movies like this now, thank you. So, The Exorcist Believer. I don't know why it's called Believer. I don't know what... I believe it's a piece of shit movie. I was thinking maybe it's like The Exorcist #believe her. I don't know, because the girls in the movies are like, oh my god, we're being raped by Satan. Everyone's like, no, you must be wrong. I don't believe you. You're a little girl. Then it turns out they were lying. I don't know, Believer. I mean, that kind of brings up the idea that there's something very thematic about the movie. Like there's this, like with the main character, like it seems like he went out of faith. He went out of faith, and he's no longer a Christian or whatever. But now that his daughter and this other chick is possessed, that he maybe seems like he's got to become a Christian again, or that his faith is restored. But no, because the film doesn't follow through with fucking anything. There are absolutely no themes and nothing concrete in the movie that gets followed through at all. In the original movie, goddamn, I couldn't stop thinking about the original movie because I do quite like it, but I was thinking about just so many iconic scenes in that movie and how this new one doesn't even have any good scenes at all. There's no good scenes. There's almost nothing good to say about it. I mean, what it is... So in the original, we had like one little girl being possessed. And it comes across as a pretty simple story, I suppose. And then the two priests come in to deal with her shit. And now this new one, there's two of them that are possessed. Okay, that's fine. And they're like possessed by the same demon, and whatever. It makes their heartbeats synchronized. So that's gonna be one of the very few nice things I could say about this movie. Oh, that's kind of cool, I guess. For like 3 seconds in the movie, I'm thinking, oh yeah, that's cool. What's next? And then just another 40 minutes of horseshit. So they get possessed because, so one of them, there's a black chick and a white chick. That's how I'm going to distinguish them. One of them, the black chick is the main one, and she, there's an opening scene where the father character and the mother character of this young girl are in Haiti, and the woman is like very obviously pregnant, and she gets like a blessing. It's like, oh, don't do that. Oh no, that voodoo, bad for the unborn child. And so then obviously just after that happens, oh, by the way, it also shows them inside of a church, which shows that they, I guess, were faithful. Anyway, and then after that, they separate, but then there's a big earthquake. She gets fucked up by it, and then the father has to is made a choice between like saving the unborn child or saving the wife, because they can't do both. Not a bad opening, really. Really not a bad opening. That's like a fine enough dilemma for the guy to have. The only bad thing is so later on in the movie, spoilers by the way, I guess. I mean, who cares? I guess there's spoilers to be had, but there certainly is. Later on in the movie, when they're being possessed, when they're trying to be exorcised, the young black girl is she tells her father like something like, you wanted to kill me, and then it has a bit of a flashback where it shows him back in the Haiti all those years ago being like, please save my wife, and it's like, oh, that's an interesting thing there. It's one of the few interesting things in the movie that, like with everything else in the movie, doesn't get followed through with at all. That's just it. That's the end of that. It does seem like really just an interesting character moment to have, but nothing happens with it. I mean, that's it. What I just said, you can get it done and over with in 5 seconds like I have. But yeah, does that opening scene where it shows they're like, you have to make a decision between your wife and your unborn child. And then the father's like, oh, damn, man. Shit. Shit. I gotta make a decision. And then it just fades to black. It just... Yeah, and then it just cuts to whatever fucking... What is it, Maryland? Or whatever fucking town they're in, back in, like in the original. It just cuts away, so... It's just like, oh, he has to make a decision. And then it just goes straight to the general opening of the movie. So it shows 13 years later, and he's at home with his daughter. And I swear to God, this is really bad to say, but when I saw the daughter character, like for the first time in that house, I thought that she was the wife. I thought that he chose the wife, and I'm like, oh shit, no, that is the daughter. Sorry, maybe you look a bit old, I don't know. Oops. So anyway, so that daughter and her best friend, who has no characterization, whatever, they go into the woods and they do like a seance. And then that causes like a big thing where they go missing, everyone's looking for them, then they find them. They have no memory of what happened, even though they were gone for 3 days. They're like, I didn't even know I was gone for that long, whatever. There's no evidence of any kind of assault on them. They seem to be fine. It's all okie dokie, but they do seem to be getting erratic and whatever, and are they just hormonal? But then it turns out they're being freaky, freaky and smashing things and kind of going crazy. God, I can't believe this movie, like, it's 2 hours, just under, like, it's not that long, but when I think about it, I'm like, how did they flesh this out to 2 hours long? And it is, like, a somewhat fast-paced movie, but I was wondering, like, how did they pad it out to this long? Because you kind of go over it and you're thinking, okay, like, you know, the story is there. It's not interesting at all. The story is there. There's no characterization. There's nothing to, like, flesh out anything. So how you'd think it'd be like an hour long? I don't know. I mean, in terms of, I guess one of the slower moments of the movie is when, like, the black chick comes back to her home, and after being possessed, and they're like, oh, I guess everything's got to go back to normal or whatever. But oh no, she's acting weird. She's going around like, oh, I'm very spooky now. She's like, yeah, acting in that way. And there's like a few moments where her father's like brushing his teeth in the bathroom, and the lights keep going out, and he's looking in the mirror, and I'm like, oh no, there's going to be big spooky person. Spooky devil appear behind him with a big jump scare and a moment. Yeah. Look, to be fair to the movie, yeah, I guess that was a little bit creepy because you're sitting there like, oh no, jump scare's coming, ooh. And then sometimes it doesn't. And then when it does, you're like, oh, that's not scary. And whatever. God, I feel like I'm being just nice to this movie, but I can get to it. I can get to like the criticisms. So, I don't know. It does seem very derivative of the first movie, except that doesn't have the quality of it. And this is all meant to be on the 50th anniversary, you know. What a crock. What a crock of cock. Because they do the same thing where they're going over, like, the two young ladies, and they're saying, like, you know, they're doing the whole, like, medical examination and whatever. I don't know, man. Like, look, let's just get... One of the problems is one of the big problems, really. Like I was saying, like you got in the original two priest characters dealing with this the Reagan character, Ronald Reagan character. Oh, I'm possessed as fuck. That seems like it'd be a joke in Repossessed, which I haven't seen, but whatever. So these two characters and her makes free, and then there's her mum standing outside. All right, that's something to work with. But in this new one, there's So you got the two young ladies getting, they're like scrapped together in like chairs, and they're supposed to be exercised in that moment. They're like, oh no, we haven't been given authority to do it. They're saying we just take him to a mental institution. It's like, no, we must do this and whatever. So they go ahead and do that. They do that. So all right, so you got the two girls. There's the father character. There's the parents of the other girl. There's like a priest. There's another priest who's meant to do the actual exorcism. There's like a voodoo witch doctor, shaman kind of person. There's another guy, like a neighbor. Yeah, and there's also like another neighbor. So that's 8 people all working together to like deal with, and this isn't even counting like Ellen Burstyn, who isn't what's her name, Chris McNeil character. Hey, you know, remember her from the original? Woo, she's back! Yay! Remember The Exorcist? It's a new movie. Go watch it, you fucks. Oh boy, franchise. So there's her as well. She's not involved. I'll get round to that in a second. But yeah, you got like 8 people all dealing with this exorcism, and it's just too much. And none of them like have any stakes involved, you know, like in the original, like each person has like, you know, the older priest in the original, you know, he's more like adamant about being able to get this done, whereas the younger priest has his qualms about the faith, and then there's some other character who's kind of more on the more personal level. But with these, it's just like 8 people, and they might as well just all be the same person, although... Again, spoilers, like, you gotta have that many people so that one of them can be killed very, very quickly, which is that priest character, the one who's, like, meant to do the exorcism, who basically appears in one scene earlier on, talking to, like, you know, whoever, bishops or whatever. He's saying, we must, you know, get the devil out of the woman. So that's what he says in that accent. He has that scene. Then he shows up in the for the exorcism, but he's telling them like we cannot do it. So I don't even know what accent it is, but he stays in his car, and then the father comes along later, and he's like, you know, come on, man, you got to do this. So he's like, all right. So he gets out, he goes in to like help out with the whole exorcism, and then so he puts his hand. By the way, like everything I'm saying is like the exact amount of time that the character is in the film. Like, this guy has like 3 minutes of screen time, and then he gets killed. You know why? Because they want to have a reference to the original, because he puts his hand near the girls, and he's like, Satan, get the fuck out. And then his head starts twisting and turns like right around. He's like, oh, and then falls down and dies. And that's it. And then he never gets referenced again. He never gets spoken about again. Everyone's like, oh, whatever. Push him to the side. Like, not even that. Not even that. Like, who cares? Whatever. Fuck this guy. He really wanted to help out saving these 2 young girls. Well, he's dead now. Fuck him. Who cares? And there just seems to be something very rushed a lot of the time with the film. So with the Chris McNeil character, like, one of the neighbor characters tells the dad, she's like, this bitch wrote this book on when her daughter was possessed, and he's like, oh shit. So he goes and finds her, and it's like, hey, it's the woman from the original, who, by the way, this Ellen Burstyn appeared in this movie just so she could get a paycheck to spend on like some acting academy thing or whatever. So hey, spend your money wisely, But if she wasn't even in this movie, and neither was Linda Blair, spoilers, who appears at the end, and there wasn't like tubular bells referencing in the music of the film, then this would be an Exorcist movie, a movie about an exorcism, rather than an Exorcist movie. But hey, if you did it that way, people might be like, oh, is it really an Exorcist movie? Or they wouldn't get like, they wouldn't. I mean, studio executives, I should say, wouldn't. They would be the ones who are like, who cares about this movie? But since it's part of the franchise officially, they're like, oh yes, give it a big, spend $400 million buying the rights to the franchise to make 3 films, and look how this first one's done. Ooh. So, but because otherwise, I think the RLM guys were talking about it specifically, like that word exorcist or exorcism, which appears on like all those, what's it called? Oh, all the shitty movies that appear on that shitty streaming site. What's it called? Peacock? No. Whatever it's called. Hulu? No. Whichever one that has like, all those like terrible, awfully low budget movies where like more money was probably spent on making the poster for the movie, where it's like, Exorcist Shark. That's probably one. That's probably one. Exorcist Shark in space. That's dumb title, but something where you go, oh, is this related to The Exorcist? Oh, I'm gonna watch this movie then. And then they're gonna watch, but this is like an official fucking part of the franchise. But anyway, so yeah, you do have the Chris McNeil in this fucking movie. It's, hey, she's back for the first time since the first one, whatever. So she's saying, like, she's in, like, a nice house. Everyone has a nice house in the movie. But anyway, she's talking about what happened all those years ago, and you're like, oh, yep, I know about that. I've seen it. She does say that her daughter, like, left to go to fucking Cambodia or whatever, and, never seen again. Oh, fuck, I'm gonna puke talking about this movie. Pea soup reference. So that's what she says, but then she's like, I will help you get the demon out or whatever. Like, well, it seems that she developed an interest in that kind of thing, exorcism, since the first one, so whoop-de-doo, and she wrote a whole book about it. So she comes along and she sees the 2 girls and she's like, ooh. And then this is the dumbest moment of the movie, and it did make me laugh. Not sure if that's intentional on the movie's part, but she goes into the white girl's room and she's talking to her, and the white girl's going on and whatever. Then she picks up a crucifix and she's going apeshit, She fucking stabs Chris McNeil in both her eyes and blinds her. She's like, ah! And then she's in hospital with like a bandage over her eyes. Like, that's her. Remember the Chris McNeil character from the first one? She's like, oh no, my daughter. Oh, I can't go back to work. This isn't a mental illness. This is actual possession. I'm not even religious, and this is what I think. Remember that whole character? Now she's been stabbed in the face twice. And she's blind. She's like, ah! That's her fucking legacy now. 50 years have gone by, And she's like, okay, I'll come back and deal with another, exorcism, but possession, and see what happens. Bam, bam. It's so dumb. And I don't know if this movie's meant to be like, look, this is stupid. Go ahead and laugh, because I swear this whole movie has got no sense of humor. Maybe a few things make me laugh in that way, but it doesn't seem to be intentional. It's such a like dull, bland, like serious, oh my god, these demons, they need to come out, kind of movie. Yawn. So that's her. And then she's like, the next scene, she's in the hospital, and they're like, oh my god, I can't believe, I'm so sorry that this happened to you. Damn, after all those years since the first movie, I mean, since your daughter was possessed, and now for this to happen, this didn't happen last time. Would have been funny if in the first movie she did get blinded by her daughter, but in one eye. And then in this new one, she's got like an eye patch. She looks like a badass, and then she gets stabbed in the other eye by one of the girls. Oh no, now I'm properly blind. So yeah, so she's in the hospital and she's blind, and then she's just like, don't worry about it. I can see with the Lord's faith, I can see even clearer. And she just starts talking about like, giving just a speech about like, yo, religion's pretty good. It's not about just the faith. It's that, you go to church and you're among people and there are other people there. That's the good thing about church. And that's like a nice thing about religion. All right. I don't disagree at all. But so why is this being brought up in the movie? Like it does seem to be like there's no real reason for it. Like, there was nothing leading up to that speech, like, apart from being stabbed in the eyes twice. There's nothing that she really has to say that's about, like, how nice the church is. Anyway, whatever, like, this movie doesn't even have, like, it's talking about religion and faith and all that kind of thing, but, again, it doesn't follow through with a lot of it. But it's got, like, an atheistic feeling to it. It doesn't feel like it's really that properly concerned about, religion and faith and everything. It's just part of the story. So who cares? So that's her legacy. And then at the end of the movie, she's like blinded and like someone comes by her bed and it's like, oh, it's Linda Blair. Oh, it's Reagan from the first movie. I remember her. The end. That's just how it ends, And it's like, all right, I guess that's nice. I guess. Again, no build-up, just like, my daughter left me. Oh, now she's back again. Now that I'm blind, she somehow found out about all this. Why would she come back if she was so bothered? Because she seemed to not like the fact that her mum got into this whole voodoo exorcism kind of stuff. And she's like, I want to be past this. But then she comes back. It's just, yeah, fan service. That's just all it is. And at the end of the movie, like, they have to make a decision and about which one to. Well, the demons ask which daughter, and the white father character is like, my daughter, and it's like, okay, and then she dies, and he's like, oh no, I thought you meant who to save, not who to kill. And then so. A bit of a thumbs up to a horror movie killing a kid. She fucking dies. But just like everyone else that dies or gets blinded in this movie, it's like, oh no. Oh well. Who fucking cares, I mean, I guess the mother character that dies at the beginning has some sort of, like, presence looming throughout the movie. Like, she's part of the story, throughout, like. And at the end, like, it shows one of the characters, it shows, the young black chick, like, at her grave. And I'm like, yeah, what about the grave for your friend? Like, your friend died as well, and you're like, too bad. Better you than me. Yeah, that's it. I mean, what else to say, And I honestly thought, like, it's... I don't know, it just feels like a movie of the times, I thought it was going to get maybe good reviews. Like, people were like, yeah, man, this movie's pretty good. Oh, it's spooky, and it has religious themes in it. I thought the critics would be saying that, but, went to Rotten Tomatoes, and it looks like, it's got, 24 last time I checked. It's got good old 20%. God damn, that is low. 400 million for this. Well, I hope you're happy. I hope you. God damn, 20%. Damn, that's embarrassing. So yeah, they're apparently making a new one called Deceiver. Ooh, the Siva, Deceiver. And that'll be coming out 2 years from now. And will it? And is there going to be a third one? I mean, I don't know how this is doing kind of in the box office, but you know, with horror movies, they don't have to spend a whole lot. Although this, like, you know, comparatively, compared to other horror movies that are somewhat similar, like this one looks, I suppose, more expensive than others because it's like very, you know, I'm not saying it's like got great cinematography or whatever, but it is polished, and it has like a bunch of shit during the exorcism where they're like puking up like, "Ugh!" And then there's like, there's smoke, their mist is coming out of their girls, bad voodoo, don't breathe it in, CGI mist. I don't know, that must have cost some money, so yeah, I don't know. I mean, I could look it up now, but yeah, I wouldn't imagine that it was like any more than 100 million. I mean, no way. I mean, let me guess, 40 million for the budget. Probably less. Oh, I don't know. Let's see. 30 million. All right, I'm happy with that. Close enough. All right. And that's that. I was pretty generous to it. I happened to see Mark Kermode's review of it because obviously he's all big into Exorcist. And yeah, he was not pleased with it. I actually thought he too would be like, hey, it's not really that bad. You really get involved in the characters. You know, when they're like, we must get the demon out. You're like, wow, yeah, I really identify with that. Yeah, I would say he liked it even more than me. I think he said like there were no scares at all. Like it wasn't scary at all. Oh, I was a little bit scared. And I was like, oh, no jump scares, please. I know it's coming and I'm going to be startled. And that's really it. So on to our next review now. A review of the Mr Inbetweeners. So I happen to be watching Mr. Inbetween and the Inbetweeners recently. Like, I saw the Inbetweeners when I was younger, like in my early 20s. And I guess I'd seen maybe a bit of a rewatch, but like I gave it like a proper rewatch recently, now that I'm like, you know, in my 50s. And yeah, you know, the show hasn't changed and I haven't changed. So it works for the both of us, you know. I don't think it is a real nice comfort show. You know, it's one of those kinds of shows, you know, certainly for me. I mean, I think it's quite popular enough that a lot of people think that way about it. And it does work because of just how damn good the chemistry is between like all these like great characters, you know. I mean, the four really work together. I mean, maybe Neil seems to be on the like goofier side of things and not quite as serious, but yeah, they all work really well as like, you know, seemingly like realistic teenagers. Yeah, I guess they are at like 17 years old or however old they are. They do seem that way, and it's really like, you know, the acting's done pretty well, and it's just like all the dialogue, like just, it's a show that really keeps up with, I can't even remember every single joke because there's just, you know, these crass quips that come up just quite a lot of the time, mostly from Jay, of course. But to me, that's kind of realistic because that's just kind of how a lot of guys of that age talk, you know. And even a lot of the time, it's him like making these crass jokes, and the others kind of go with it in a way where they're trying to like expose, you know, the kind of lies and the kind of bullshit that he's going through. So it makes them sound crass as well, but it's just, yeah, even in just like the little writing in it, like with all these, the dialogue between them, you know, it just works really well. So it really is good chemistry with them, and just, you know, a lot of the real crass visual gags in the show as well. Literally gags. You know, a lot of just real dumb moments. But I think because it was like a more realistic depiction of high school. Unfortunately, if it was not a realistic depiction for you, then congratulations. But it did seem to make it actually seem funnier because it just seemed more relatable. Although, I guess at times it was kind of like getting into cringe moments, mostly with Will. I would say just certain moments with him, where it's just like where he like kind of screws up with a woman, and it's like, how could you? I wouldn't say how could you screw up this badly, you know? How would you? You know, that's where like, you know the comedy, it breaks, it doesn't bend. It didn't particularly get darker as it went on. I think it kind of mostly stayed the same, but there is that one dark moment where Jay gets pissed off at a squirrel that keeps fucking with his car, so he runs it over and they're just all looking at it, it's just dead. And like, oh man, that is well grim. At another moment involving animal killing, is they have a fish end up in their boat and they're like, how do we kill it? And Neil's just like, I know. He just starts punching it to death. There is a lot of quality. I think I started watching it again because it just came up on my YouTube, and there's that line where they're like, in that moment where they're trying to figure out how to get the boat back onto the shore, and Jay's just bullshitting again, like just saying like, you know, me and my mate, you know, we got one of those paddle boats, you know, we took it out to Africa last summer. And Will's just like, can you stop the bullshit for 1 minute? So yeah, there is like a really great dynamic with like Neil being the goofier character, sure, Jay being like kind of a bullshitter, although there is that bit of vulnerability that he's like trying to mask and whatever. Like in the last episode where Neil's talking about like, you know, that shed that you and your uncle used to go to. Your uncle would, you know, play those weird games with you, and he's like, what? No, shut up. What are you talking about, you knob? He's trying to cover it up. Oh, no. But then, like, Will is, like, you know, the real uptight, you know, not serious, but, like, definitely the lamest. Although, maybe Simon is actually the lamest, because he seems to be the most desperate, like, you know, the one really not trying to get laid the most, but trying to get with the chick, Carly. Yeah, her, and like his whole thing with her, which, oh man. But then I was thinking about, oh god, I hope they're of age, but some of the actresses in the show that play like the various girlfriends, the one that played Kara. So I think in the third season, Simon's girlfriend in that one. Ooh, damn, I think she was the cutest. But anyway, on to. I think within the show, like, there was honestly, some good tips as to, like, you know, teaching men how to pick up. Something that I've just noticed with the show, watching it again, was that Neil was the one that was, like, usually getting with chicks. And maybe it was, like, kind of a joke where, like, at the end of the episode, they're like, oh, man, you know, what an exhausting fucking weekend or whatever at the camp or the nightclub or whatever. No one got laid except for Neil. Neil would be the one bringing it up, like, yeah, man, I fingered her in your back seat. She got it all wet. Good old trash sex jokes. It's my kind of humor. I'm still 14 for fuck's. I'm like 12 years old mentally. I'm 12 years old in terms of life experiences. But yeah, Neil seems gets the most birds because he was the one that was the most outgoing and confident, and maybe he came across as just a real weirdo, a real saddo, but he was the most laid back and the most and the least self-conscious. That's why it wasn't working so well for Simon, because he had that desperate incel energy about him. And Will had that as well to a degree, but Will could, you know, make it work at times. Think about the one where they go to the same one with the boat where they go down to wherever and they're on a trip and Will's trying to like chat up that like Scottish girl on the bus, but then like Simon starts talking to her as well, which kind of goes against what I just said because oh man, that's so painful where Simon's like, she seems to be more interested in Simon even though Will called first with her, like he met her first. Oh man, that's actually painful, man. That's actually really not cool, that part. But I was thinking about, and again I saw this on YouTube, she shows up at the door of the four guys and she's saying like, there's a party going on, you want to come? And Will's like, party? Sounds cool, yeah. She just looks at him, and everyone just tries to ignore like such a bad, cringy moment. Yeah, that's why the show's so great, because you got like purposefully cringy moments where you're just like, oh god. Another great bit is when Simon's being jerked off by that girl, like in the dance, like with all these kids around, and he's looking at like his friends, and they're just looking back at him as being jerked off. And they all think it's cool. At least like Neil thinks it's cool. They're all like, yeah, man, all right, you're gonna get jerked off. But then as it actually starts happening, they're like looking at him weirdly. But they're not even turning away. And he starts getting beaten up by a kid. Oh, yeah. So it's a pretty damn funny show. So, I gave the show a go. And I like, in terms of like, the character side of things, like, well, I guess with their relationships, that's all done kind of realistically, how they try to like navigate with all that, with mostly failures. Kind of like, well, what they're kind of getting through with the girls is like not a lot of experience at all, but at least some experience. Getting your dick wet slightly. But getting not experience, but like learning from failed experiences. They're at least getting these lessons, and they're bonding like over time with each other over these kind of girls, despite the issues that they're having. So it is kind of like done well in that way, and it does kind of like change up the characters. Like when Jay starts going out with this girl, and they're all like, like Neil would just say like crass things, like how Jay always says these crass things, and he's like, Neil, you stop it, all right? You stop it, all right? I really love her, all right? She's different. He's like, all right. And then like he gets broken up with, and he's like crying about it. And then there's a joke like in the next season where Jay says something like, "Oh, well, I've never really fancied a bird. I've never really cared about one." And then Will says, "Apart from the last girl that you were with that it made you cry when she left you." He's like, "Oh." They're all like, "Oh, that is well low, mate. You need to apologize." What? After all the things he's ever said to me? So yeah, and that's the thing. Like, when you have these like character moments, you can reference back to them and like expand on them with further jokes, which is good. And that kind of leads into the movie side of things, because we had the two movies about this, and then it's weird because I remember watching I remember liking them actually back in the day when I watched them. I hadn't seen them since, but the first movie I kind of done a switch around. Like I now dislike the first one more than the second, because I used to think the other way around. But yeah, with the first one, like I'm saying with the chicks, like in that one, it's kind of like it's those four guys. They're on holiday, so it's kind of like just the booze up for them, really. And I guess there's some fun moments with that. But then again, it does kind of come across like at times in the movie, like you got these montages where it's just like, "Yo, check it out, it's Ibiza or whatever the fuck they are. All right, cool, whatever." Just like as if it's trying to advertise the place. And then they see these four chicks, and they're like, "We'll fit." And honestly, they seem a little out of their league, especially for Will. But it just seems, I don't know, kind of just one-to-one. Like, even the chick Neil's with just seems like a female version of her. At least for the others, it's a bit different, and they have their own, like, reservations about them. Like, Jay thinks his bird is too fat or whatever. Although he actually is into her. But he doesn't want to be seen with her. Like, all right. Doesn't really offer up many jokes in that way, though. And same with Simon. Like, he's got, like, like, for my money, a real hot chick. Like, the hottest one of the bunch. But he keeps talking about Carly and everything. And he doesn't have, like, the self-awareness of, like, "Oh, no, why are you talking about some other chick? With this other chick that's trying to get with you." Ooh. Yeah, haha. Well, it's not even a joke. It's just, like, a thing. And I don't know. I just found it to be pretty deflating and not so funny. It does have some of the same kind of humor, like the crass, haha, you shit in the bidet toilet kind of humor, tee-hee. But, and the girls just pair up with them too well. It's just like there's no conflict or struggle. It's like in the show they had to... it makes sense that they meet the girls because they're just, I don't know, sat next to them or whatever in class. and then they still got to kind of, badger them for sex. But in this one, they're just like, the four of them and the four of them, they just interlink, and then that's it. And I mean, with this one, it's just them partying it up and whatever. And I mean, it's not that much fun, and they don't. And there's also not like a lot of the. I think another thing about the show that's so great is like a lot of the side characters are also great. You got the cunt principal. I mean, he's got his great moments. Like, I forget what it is when the parents come over and they're chatting to him. They say something. Fuck, I can't remember. But then the principal, and he's a great actor. He's like, he starts. They say something like horrible about like Will. Like Will's having an issue with something, and he's trying not to laugh, and it's just like, can you just excuse me for one moment? And he leaves the office to laugh about it. But he's like, barely in this first movie. I think he's doing Will's mum now, or was that in the second one? Anyway, whatever. You don't have him. You don't have Donovan. You don't have or like even like the smaller characters that only appeared for like one episode. I mean, they were always fun. They always like had something about them, like the French exchange student, where he's like, "Your mom is sex. she has the sex," or whatever. And I also like really small characters, like the black drug dealer, where they come up to him like, "Yo, you got any green?" It's like, "Oh, 'cause I'm black, huh? You expect me to be a drug dealer, huh? Do you have any?" "Yeah, I could sell it to you, but that's not the point. You need to do better. Can you roll it up for us?" So, I mean, with that whole thing, and, those new chick characters, they're not really that funny. They don't really have much to add in terms of the humor. Who else? You got that, like, boyfriend character as well. Like, all right, like, just dick. It's a bit more stereotypical, It's just like, oh, haha, dickhead boyfriend character of the chick who Will's trying to get with, I think. Is that it? Oh, no, it's Carly. Or whatever. Fuck. I mean, I suppose Carly's different to the new blonde chick, but I mean, but then the same thing happens in the second movie. And I'm not saying the second movie is great, but it is better. But again, like, Will's trying to get with, like, the same chick as before. And again, she's like, "Oh, but I like the guy, but... I want to be with him, but then again, not really, but tee-hee," or whatever. Whatever, who cares? So the second movie, where they go to Australia, the story seems better, I guess. Like, it's not them trying to live it up. They have something to do, and again, like, having kind of more of a direction can bring out the jokes, So, because, like, Jay, he's, like, heartbroken that his fat bitch left him, so that he has to, go to Australia to get her back. All right, cool. So they go down there, and it just seems like Jay comes across as more developed character, which makes sense now because maybe all of his crass sex jokes, are kind of making him getting repetitive, and there's less of that. Although the crass jokes are now coming from like his Aussie family members that are down there, so that's cool. One of the scenes that I really didn't like is they do end up at like this water park, and there's a bit where like, oh no, who is it, Neil, for some reason ate too many burritos or whatever. He's like, oh no, he takes his shit and it goes down the water slide, and oh no, they gotta try to escape it, try to get down before the shit gets to them. And then the gag ends with Will, he gets to the end of the water slide and the other chick's there. The poo flings and hits him in the face. And it's just this whole fucking overly wrought bit where he's walking around and there's like dramatic music playing and he's like puking everywhere because of this shit. And everyone's looking at him like, oh no, he's got shit on his face. Ah! And everyone runs out of the pool. And it goes on forever. And it's just like, if this happened, just dunk your fucking head in the water and wash it off. What's the big deal? Why are you walking around with it on? It's just... that joke just, like, flat out doesn't work, and... oh, that really annoyed me. Like, it just plain doesn't work. But anyway, when it gets to the bit where they're, like, in the desert and, like, the car's breaking down and they can't get anywhere, and it's kind of a touching moment. It's, like, a nice ending to cap off the show, even though I think at the end they're just, like... so Jay doesn't get the girl, so... I think... and neither does Will with his chick, so in the end, like, it doesn't... It doesn't end in the same way as the first movie, where the first movie they're like, yeah, we're all getting the chicks and whatever. I'm like, this isn't reality. This isn't like the original show. But in the new one, yeah, it does end like in a bit of a different way, where it's more about like, I guess with them being together, having sex with each other. But still, something about the ending, like the very ending, like, just seemed like the last scene. I don't know, just felt like it didn't feel like an ending scene. It just cut out and that's it. So I don't know. That's meant to be the end of the Inbetweeners. Although I guess they did come back after the movies for like that really cringy talk thing they did, where, you know, with Jimmy Carr and that whole thing. And yeah, I don't know. I haven't really watched much of it, but I watched a bit and I was like, oh yeah, this seems pretty cringy. Where one of them's got to get in the suitcase and it's like, oh, isn't it funny? Isn't it funny? Isn't it? And then yeah. And then some of them talked about it later, like, yeah, oh, that wasn't really good, but oh well, whatever. So now on to an even more amusing show, Mr. Inbetween. Oh god, I mean, there's certainly laughs to be had in this show. I mean, it's within the dialogue at times, especially with I forget the character's name, like kind of the friend, the guy that owns the strip club that like who's kind of the boss to the hitman. So it's about like a hitman for hire who has to really do the dirty work, you know, the real dirty work, and dealing with things when they go awry and all that kind of thing. And I mean, he's like a real committed, like, I think these two guys were both in the army, and the hitman in particular, the Mr. Inbetween character, he is really the sort of character who, you know, you might see it in other movies, but you don't really see him as a character where it's an assassin, where they really get things done like by the books and real, you know, uninterrupted, and make sure like things go exactly right, you know. He's that kind of guy. He's like very, I guess, assertive in that way. Although I guess it gets a bit much when the episode where like that little girl gets kidnapped, like his daughter's friend, and he has to go around like finding her, and he gets a bit too crazy with things and holding guns to people's faces and all that. Oh. Yeah, that was a crazy episode. Yeah, I really enjoyed this whole show. I mean, I don't think there is like a real poor episode. It seemed weird though, as I was watching these episodes, they're about 25 minutes each, and it just kind of felt like the show was so well written, wasn't wasting any time. It was paced well though, and it wasn't like done in a way where it's like each scene must be the same length, you know, like this algorithmic kind of feeling. No, it felt fine, you know, but I just like really compulsively watched it. I was just one after the other, because it seemed like 25-minute episodes kind of felt like 15. I mean, I guess that's a good thing for this show. But yeah, but like I was saying, with this boss character, there's a bit of like humor with him, and a bit of like, you know, camaraderie, and just kind of like casual conversations that are thrown in throughout the show. But ultimately, it is fairly depressing, like watching this guy who's like divorced dad, is like taking care of his kids, got to deal with like, you know, as she's getting into like her teenage years. But he has to, you know, lying about like what he does, and like how he's, you know, I guess his front is that he works as security guard. I mean, you do see him as a security guard for this strip joint, but yeah, you know, he's getting all the dirty work, you know, just like whatever kind of things, like, you know, people are asking, like, you know, I mean, a lot of the time it is like killing someone or fucking someone up, or what is it, like one where they have to kill off a bikie, and then the guys that like offered him that deal to kill him off try to kill him off, and he's like, oh, what are you doing? This is bullshit. I mean, I guess he didn't exactly say it like that, but yeah, like, you know, the sort of things that kind of go wrong for him, and the way he kind of deals with it, you know. I mean, it does show, you know, how assertive he is, but it isn't done in a way where he's like a real Gary Sue superhero kind of dude, where he's just like able to get through it all. I mean, he gets his fucking eye popped out at one point. So it's showing, like, you know, yeah, what it is that he has to go through, and like the regrets that have to come with that kind of work. So I feel like, you know, the kind of general feeling of the show, it is kind of in between the kind of this kind of like machismo, guilty watch, like, yeah, badass, you know, kind of unserious show about an assassin who's like, oh yeah, you gotta get justice upheld, matey. That is in there, where he has these like group therapy sessions that he has to go to for, I can't remember why. It's something to do with, oh god damn it, I can't remember why. I know he goes to jail at one point. That's a good episode. They're all good episodes, but I mean, it's early on in the show where, yeah, I can't remember exactly why. Maybe he does get some sort of criminal charge against him where like all he has to do is go to these group sessions for like anger management, and he is to. Oh man, I can't remember why he goes at the beginning, but obviously he has issues with people where, you know, he fucks them up and whatever, and it's like, well, it wasn't a person who, you know, he was hired to fuck up. It wasn't, and he did it in a way where it's like in front of people and all this kind of thing. So, where he, like, you know, certainly lets his anger get out of control. But then, like, when he's in these sessions, he's kind of like justifying it with his kind of beliefs, where he's like, well, you know, you gotta, you know, uphold justice. You know, I mean, if someone's being a dickhead, you know, you gotta punch them in the face. You know, otherwise they're just gonna go around being a dickhead. But if you punch them in the face, or the scene goes along these lines, but he's like, if you punch them in the face, you know, next time they go to be a dickhead, they'll think twice and maybe won't do it, and that kind of makes the world better, you know. You don't have to kill them or anything, just a little punch in the gut or whatever. So, yeah, you know. I mean, he's just putting it forward there. So it's kind of between that kind of show where it's like a badass, and then, you know, on the other hand, like a morally preachy, like, oh, toxic masculinity, man, bad lesson message kind of TV show, which is also there. Like, it's the best of both worlds, where it's like not quite on either side, and it's not quite that, but there is this kind of showing how like a job like that can like really, you know, wreck him and like cause issues with his family life and like things outside of that, and how he lets it get to him, and you know how, you know, as I was saying with his kind of own belief system, how that kind of thing, how you see it at times where he lets it go and so that he doesn't end up in trouble, but then other times where it does go too far and it does fuck up something good in his life. So yeah, I think it's a real like engaging watch, you know, a really great, you know, it is a character study, but it does have like quite a good story that like goes throughout the show. And like I was saying, you know, I mean, I was kind of watching it at a time where I don't know, I needed something to distract me in my life, so I was just like, oh, well, it's a good time to be watching this show. I'm just gonna sit here and just be watching that. But yeah, it's pretty damn good. I mean, only like 26 episodes, so I thought I'd get around to finally talking about the Mr Inbetweeners right there. I mean, I keep I've mentioned on a few podcasts, and I want to keep like pushing it back. Like, I keep saying something about like, I watched this trailer for the comedy film Bottoms, and it kind of just made me think like, this is, you know, when like it takes a while for culture, no matter how shitty it is, to get like kind of solidified, where it just feels like this is how things are now in like, you know, a movie or a show or whatever kind of thing, something that does feel very cultural and showing like the supposed beliefs and values of like a film, you know. And unlike Mr. Inbetween, it's not like, you know, this is just how he feels. The show is not making any particular judgments. You know, it is just showing a, you know, how TV shows used to be, how movies used to be back in the, well, they did used to be kind of moral, and then they weren't, and now they are again at times. And there's some good stuff out there, but I mean, but yeah, so this comedy film, Bottoms, where it does, I'm just talking about the trailer. I don't need to watch the fucking movie in the same way I don't need to eat dog shit to know, so I can say with confidence that it does taste bad. I can smell it, it's bad enough. I know not to. But kind of just discussing the trailer and yeah, what that's all about, and just it does seem like, you know, we're at the, you know, kind of like the tipping point where it's like we can only go down from here into like where everyone's going to just be like completely over the kind of stuff that kind of film is putting through. But hey, I'm going to keep putting off this particular thing that I should be doing. But anyway, whatever. I'm just going to wrap this up now, you know. I don't need to make like a fucking 3.5 hour podcast, especially on my own. I mean, I could do it with someone else, but oh, it's hard on my own. It's hard to live on my own. It's hard to fuck myself. It's hard to fuck on my own. Anyway, this has been the David Morgan Brown Experience. Episode 83, why not? Yeah, brother. Booyah. I was going to say a word. What word is booyah shaka? Shaka booyah. Booyah doobie. These are the kind of words that came up like in The Exorcist, where they're doing like the shaka dua, voodoo witch tower doctor, whoosh, bakarua. Oh no. Big earthquake and a big exorcism. Yeah, that movie stank. I wonder if it's worse than Super Mario Bros. I'd have to think about that. Both films are kind of similar in that they just feel like products. They just feel basically like commercials for their own franchise. They both have references to their franchise, although Super Mario Bros. Is more obvious with it, and in a way that's okay, I guess. Like, alright, sure, in terms of its 3D animation, it looks very much like the games coming out now. Fine. I don't really have a problem with like how it looks, it's like a big colorful movie, that's cool. And that's kind of a good thing about The Exorcist, I guess, with the new one, is that it isn't trying to be too much like the original. Sure, that's good, where you're not... Well, actually, no, it kind of is. I think in the broader things it is, like, where you're like, oh, yes, she's possessed now, and then you got, like, when they go to the doctor, and then they got the exorcism. In a very broad way, yeah, it does seem to be pretty damn similar. But other than that, though, there's not, like, a huge amount of references, and there's not, like, a lot of... in terms of like very specific story beats, it's not the same. So in a way, that's good, but it still doesn't work for the movie because the movie just comes across as bland. So Christ, let me think, like, let's say a year from now, because Exorcist Believer is still fresh in my mind, but like, what would I rather watch again if I had a fucking gun to my head? Whichever film's shorter. Oh my lord, I couldn't even make a decision. What I'd want to see is like both movies overlaid equally with each other, playing at the same time. Let's just go with that, man. I cannot make a decision.